From the outside, this season can probably look very repetitive. Same routine, same workday, same charts, same build, same prayers, same waiting, same process over and over again. And if I'm honest, there are days where it can feel repetitive from the inside too. Not because I've stopped believing in where I'm going, not because I've changed my mind about the goal, not because I suddenly think the work does not matter, but because when you're doing the same things again and again, and the visible outcome has not fully arrived yet, it can start to feel like the process is just repeating itself. Hi, I'm JP, and lately I've been trying to see this season differently. Not as empty repetition, not as delay, but as training, especially in trading. Because right now, one of the most important skills I'm building is not just reading the market. It's not just knowing my setup. It's learning how to wait for the right setup. And that sounds pretty simple. But it is not always easy. Because sometimes impatience shows up when I feel like today needs to produce progress. And in trading, that can become dangerous because the market does not owe me a trade just because I want the day to count. One of the things I'm starting to realize is that the same day can have a different meaning depending on how I see it. If I see the day only through visible results, then a quiet day can feel wasted. No trade, no big movement, no obvious progress, just another day of waiting. But if I see the day as training, then the meaning changes. A quiet day is not automatically a wasted day. A no-trade day is not automatically a failed day. A day where I waited and followed the plan can still be valuable. Because the goal is not just to trade. The goal is to become someone who executes properly. That means the day is not only measured by whether something happened externally. It is also measured by whether I stayed aligned internally. Did I wait properly? Did I avoid forcing? Did I respect the rules? Did I stay under the process? If yes, then the day still served the build. I think repetition starts feeling difficult when you expect every day to show proof. You wake up, you show up, you look for the setup, you wait, you do the work, and then sometimes nothing. Nothing obvious happens. No major result. No visible step forward. And if you only measure progress by outcome, that can feel frustrating. It can feel like you are doing the same thing again and again without getting anywhere. That's where the mind starts asking questions. Should I be further by now? Should something more be happening? Should today produce something? And that last question is where the danger begins. Because wanting today to produce something can quietly turn into needing today to produce something. And once I start needing the day to prove progress, I become more vulnerable to forcing the wrong thing. This is where I'm learning that execution is built quietly. Not only in the dramatic moments, not only when a perfect setup appears, not only when the trade wins. Execution is built in the waiting. It is built when I sit there and nothing valid appears. It is built when price moves but does not meet my plan. It is built when part of me wants action, but the setup is not there yet. Because the real trading skill is not just knowing what a good setup looks like. A lot of people can learn that. The harder skill is waiting until it actually appears, and then acting cleanly when it does. That waiting is part of execution, not separate from it, not less important, part of it. Because if I cannot wait for the right setup, then the strategy does not matter as much as I think it does. The weakness will not be in the chart. It will be in me. This is probably the part I need to be most honest about. Sometimes impatience does not come because I see price moving without me. Sometimes it comes because I feel like today needs to count. I want to feel like I progressed. I want to feel like the day produced something. I want to feel like I'm not just sitting in the same season again. And that feeling makes sense. When you're trying to build freedom, every day feels like it should matter. Every day feels like it should move something forward. Every day feels like it should contribute to the bigger picture. But the problem is that in trading, progress does not always look like activity. Sometimes, progress looks like restraint. Sometimes, progress looks like waiting. Sometimes, progress looks like doing absolutely nothing because nothing valid was there. And that can feel emotionally unsatisfying. But emotionally unsatisfying does not mean unproductive. That's what I have to remember. Waiting for the right setup can feel like doing nothing, but it isn't. Not if the waiting is disciplined. Not if the waiting is intentional. Not if the waiting is connected to the plan. There is a big difference between passive waiting and disciplined waiting. Passive waiting is just drifting. Disciplined waiting is active restraint. It is watching without forcing. It is staying ready without becoming restless. It is keeping the rules in front of me even when emotion wants to speed things up. That kind of waiting is not weakness. It is training. Because every time I wait correctly, I prove something to myself. I prove that I do not need action just to feel productive. I prove that I can let a day pass without manufacturing progress. I prove that I can stay loyal to the plan even when the day feels quiet. And that matters. Because freedom cannot be built on emotional execution. It has to be built on reliable execution. This is a mindset shift I need to keep making. A no-trade day can still train me. If there was no valid setup and I did nothing, that is not failure. That is discipline. That is restraint. That is the process working. But emotionally, it does not always feel that way. Sometimes doing nothing feels like falling behind. Sometimes waiting feels like wasting time. Sometimes no trade feels like no progress. But that is not necessarily true. If the plan said wait and I waited, then I executed. Not by entering, by not entering. That is hard to accept sometimes because it does not give the same emotional feedback as action. There is no result to look at, no win, no loss, no number. But there is still something being built. Trust in the process, trust in the rules, trust in my ability to stay still until the right moment comes. And that is not small at all. The freedom I want cannot rest on occasional discipline. It cannot rest on me being patient only when I feel calm. It cannot rest on me following the rules only when the day already feels good. It needs repeatable execution, the kind that holds under pressure, the kind that holds when I feel impatient, the kind that holds when I want the day to count, the kind that holds when waiting feels frustrating. Because if trading is going to become part of the freedom I'm building, then execution has to be reliable before the outcome can be trusted. That is the part I cannot skip. I cannot build freedom on random good decisions. I cannot build freedom on emotional trades. I cannot build freedom on days where I only follow the plan when it feels easy. The skill has to become steadier than that, and that steadiness is trained in repetition. I think this is the bigger picture. I'm not just waiting for freedom. I'm growing the skill that freedom will depend on. That changes how I see this season. Because if I only see the repetition as waiting, I can become frustrated. But if I see the repetition as training, then the same day starts to carry meaning. Every day I wait properly matters. Every day I refuse to force matters. Every day I follow the plan even when it feels boring matters. Every day I accept that no setup means no trade matters. Because all of that is building the kind of execution that the future will need. And maybe that is the point. Maybe the freedom cannot arrive before the execution is strong enough to carry it. Maybe the repeated days are not in the way. Maybe they are the training ground. This season may still look repetitive. Same routine, same charts, same weighting, same build, same process. But I'm starting to see it differently. The repetition is training. And right now, one of the biggest things being trained in me is execution, especially the ability to wait for the right setup. Because sometimes progress is not taking a trade. Sometimes progress is waiting correctly. Sometimes the day counts because I did nothing when nothing was there. And if I can learn that now, inside the repetition, then maybe I'm not just waiting for freedom. Maybe I'm becoming more capable of carrying it. I'm JP, and I'll see you in the next one.